Senator Jim Risch is chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator Risch, I want to first get your response to the difference between what the intel chiefs are saying and what the President of the United States is tweeting.
Well, Harris, I think what you have to do is put both of them in perspective. I sit on the Intelligence Committee as well as on the Foreign Relations Committee. We hear from our intelligence community every day. They do a great job. We've got really good people heading those agencies. They have a job to do. Their job is to collect information. They collect a lot of information. They then provide that information to the policymakers, myself and my colleagues who sit on Intel and Foreign Relations, and of course the President of the United States. We all need to weigh those and reach our own conclusions in a much more narrow band than is allowed in an open hearing at the Intelligence Committee over a few hours.
Can we get an idea of who's right, though? Because it's completely oppositional with the President and what the intel chiefs are saying.
Right. I think what you need to do is take them one at a time.
Who do we take first?
Well, let's take North Korea first. I think probably that's the one where they maybe have the widest divergence on. The intelligence community is using valid past history of North Korea to reach a conclusion that they won't change their ways. The President of the United States has sat across the table from Kim and has actually negotiated eyeball to eyeball with him, had discussions about where this needs to go. At the end of the day, this is all going to be up to Kim to make a decision as to whether or not he is going to take more precise steps to denuclearize the Korean Peninsula. I think that the President and the intelligence community have a different view of that.
Well, clearly they do.
Only time will tell.
Clearly they do. Now, before we toggle back to that first topic, I want to hear from someone in your own political ilk, though, not in the Senate, but in the House, Representative Adam Kinzinger, and then get your reaction. Let's watch, sir.
If you disagree with intelligence, that's fine. He's the president. He has a right to do that. But I don't think he should put that out on Twitter. He's correct in principle about Iran. There's still a threat. He has made some very devastating gains against Iran. I just don't like putting this, I call it dirty laundry or whatever, this disagreement with intelligence, which is the backbone of any decision we make on foreign policy. It is not helpful to put that out on Twitter.
So that really could go for North Korea or the current situation in Syria, Iran, whatever. What do you think about what Representative Kinzinger is saying?
Well, first of all, I think his analysis on a substantive basis was very accurate. He has his opinion as to how that should be communicated to the American people, and certainly each has their own idea of how to do that.
Real quickly, how fast should we leave some of these areas? You've got Syria, you've got Afghanistan. You are chairing the committee that talks about this every day. Tell me about it.
Well, I think that this is a work in progress. I'm not willing to sit here and hold up a calendar and say, here's the day. That's going to depend upon a lot of different things. I've discussed this with the president at some length. I know that he is absolutely committed to do what we need to do to maintain platforms to attack ISIS. That interview you did with the ISIS fighter was an outstanding piece of work. Every American should see that and see what we're dealing with. These are people who are deeply, deeply religiously committed to their cause. And dealing with that is very difficult because it's not something you can sit down and talk about reasonably with people like this. He's willing to die. He is really typical of what ISIS does. They go into people who aren't very smart and who are living in a very destitute situation, and they get people like this and indoctrinate them, and this is what you get, and it is very, very dangerous.
Yeah, people who have not maybe had as much exposure to the outside world in terms of the dangers out there. Raising cubs for the caliphate stood out to me. Chairman Risch, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And
good to be with you.
More ahead on the deadline.